You never wanted to, for the sake of longevity, just become a little. There were lots of medium pacers in your time. You just mentioned Willie Watson. There were so many others. There was Gavin Larson around that time. There was, in fact, in that '92 World Cup, there was Rod Latham. There were a few others around. Yeah. There was Chris Harris. You never wanted to become just a medium pace swing bowler. You always wanted to run in and hit the deck hard.
And I think that was about me. Is that X factor I brought to the table or brought to the team was that I could do that. I could swing the ball at pace, reverse it when I got a bit older and things like that. And my job was to get up the opposition batsman a little bit. And I just think if I'd turned into that, it would have been difficult for me to, in a warranted place, really, because I batted last, down the bottom. Yes, I love being night watchman and headbutting cricket balls and all those sort of things. But really, if I was going to get in the team, I had to have that little bit of extra little bit of zip.
I'm going to throw you a sentence that one of your contemporaries, a batsman, said about you, and you tell me if you like it or you don't like it, and you agree or disagree. And Michael Slater said there wasn't too much difference in sheer pace facing Morrison and Alan Donald, except that occasionally you got the loose ball from Morrison, which you didn't always get from Donald. So being an Aussie, he had to put that little line in at the end. But for pace, that's not a bad line to say. Donald was quick.
Yeah, I think the difference is with longer limbed guys and that leverage they get and the extra bounce. That's what good batsmen will say to you. The bounce is the thing that really undoes you, and because a shorter guy skidded. Yeah, because it didn't bounce at times. And it was interesting talking about that about Slater. Before that tour in '89, I managed to hit Graham Wood, now left-hand opening batsman for a long time for Australia, and he had little earpieces on. And I remember it well. It was sort of, like one of those little trophies just he sort of lost it and ducked and went down, and it hit him in the earpiece, and it just shattered everywhere.
See, now you know why he wanted to be a fast bowler.
Oh, you like intimidation?
Turned on by the idea of hitting somebody.
Yeah, well, it was, and in fact, it's a bit that gladiatorial thing. And I remember that and Lily was like that, and Hadley. You've got to have that little bit of instinct about, if you like, sniffing blood in the arena. And Tomo and those guys had no problem with that. But it wasn't so much about hitting all the guys. It's just that they were good players, and you knew at times that you could hit them, because whether there was that respect of you as a quick bowler or not, because you came from little old New Zealand, different if we were an Australian or an Englishman or a West Indian, because you suddenly got that mana from those bigger cricket playing nations. But for little old New Zealand coming to Perth, loved it. Hit him there, and he was a good player of fast bowling because he was Western Australian. And so you remember those things where good bouncers and guys can skid at you. Often I remember players saying, harder to get away from you guys, because suddenly you take your eye off a little bit and you're just caught. You freeze. And I think of Marshall hitting Andy Lloyd in 1984 at Edgbaston. Hit him badly, and that was an awful blow.
Do you remember your wickets more? Do you remember
hitting people more? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, hitting people.
Because you took a fair share of wickets, especially against India. I still remember that '89 series.
90 in New Zealand.
90. Yeah.
I love running into locals who just, it's Sachin Tendulkar, the demigod. I said, yeah, mate, I got him out in every test match in New Zealand, 1, 2, 3, but he was only turning 17. He was still he was a schoolboy.
But you don't have to tell the whole truth. You know that it's one of the tenets of broadcasting. You try and tell the truth, but don't tell the whole truth. But you keep talking about little old New Zealand. Did New Zealand feel that way when they were playing cricket? Because when you were playing cricket, it was not a bad New Zealand side, that.
Yeah. I think because of what Hadley and John Wright, the Crow brothers, Ian Smith, Bracewell, that sort of nucleus of those guys in Chatfield had a wonderful record. A wonderful record in New Zealand. And Andrew Jones, who played 40-odd tests.
I mean, there are others which New Zealand would love to have now. Even simple people like, say, a Bruce Edgar. Edgar and Wright had a good opening combination going. Edgar, Wright, Jones, Crow. It was a decent batting lineup.
And when you look at that side, Harsha, in the 80s, never lost a test series at home. Didn't play a lot of test cricket, to be fair. They played 3-match tests, and that's all. You had one series at home of 3 tests, and that's all you got at that time of February, March. Now, of course, they play more test cricket, but we still don't play a lot. We had an interesting comparison this recent test series where New Zealand the last 5 years played 35 tests, India played 55. And for you guys, are still thinking it's not a heck of a lot of test cricket. You play a lot of one-day cricket in this country, but you have started to step up playing test cricket.
You look and say, gee, all my life I only played 48. I'd have played
in 10 years, in almost 10 years. Pretty much a decade I played. And we worked it out, I missed about 17 or 18 tests, so I could have played 60-odd. It's not a lot in 10 years, exactly. We just don't. And when I look at someone like Hussey, who's only coming up 5 years, he started in 06, for goodness sake.
After Australia lost the Ashes.
Yeah, he's only been going.
A habit.
So, November 06. And so he's already played, he's played over 50. It just shows so little. Do we have that inferiority complex? I think a little bit, and I think it can work on a positive angle where we wanted to step up against Australia and do well.
One of the things we always admired about New Zealand, and I remember doing an interview with Nasser Hussain recently, and he said, I always looked at New Zealand and I said, why can't my England team play like this against Australia? How is it that New Zealand seemed to play much better against us? And he said they didn't have a lot of resources, New Zealand, but they always made the best of what they had, and there's a lot of respect for New Zealand around the world. Was there a reason behind that? Was it just a generation, or is it in the genes, or what is it?
Oh, I think do we get our noses out of joint that Australia played us in a test match, I think, after World War II in 46. Didn't play us again until the early 70s. Now, that's incredible.
72, 73.
Got just snubbed like that, exactly. So didn't play them and then won that test match in Christchurch in 74. First time I really beat them when Turner got 100 in each innings. And so when you look at that and the emergence of the Hadley brothers and starting to develop, there became a short history really from the mid-70s through to the time when I started playing the Aussies in 87 through to 90. Hadley won his last test match in New Zealand against the Aussies in 1990. We beat them. John Wright got 100. And so then the last time we beat Australia in a test match was lovely. My 100th test match wicket at Eden Park on my home ground in March of 93 is the last time New Zealand have beaten Australia in a test match.
What happened afterwards? Because you look at New Zealand and say, wow, here's a side that overperforms if you look at talent as a big factor. And yet, over the last 12, 18 months, they've slipped, New Zealand.
Oh, test match is awful, really awful. And I think, you know, you had the Stephen Fleming captaincy. You had very good nucleus of players around that had matured. And you look at Astle, you look at McMillan, you look at Chris Cairns as an all-rounder. You know, you had Dan Vittoria, of course, had been in the side for a bit. So those nucleus of those guys have been together from the late 90s until even he started losing test matches. You know, they lost 3-0 in 2004 in Chris Cairns' last series, and yet they still had a pretty good side when you looked at it. They just didn't get enough runs.
Is life becoming too simple almost?
Whether you say is life getting too comfortable for them, they earn a lot better living, in particular the last 6 years. No, but they still, for New Zealand economy, they still do all right. Nothing like endorsements here, of course, off the park, but they have a good lifestyle. There's no doubt about it for the guys in the lap. But in the last 6 years, are they getting too soft and lazy? I also think, Harsha, I don't know, just as a group, we don't quite get enough runs together and we don't quite have enough resources in taking 20 wickets in a test match.